In this Arduino tutorial, I'm going to show you how to combine two sketches into one sketch so it has the function of both of those previous Arduino sketches in a single one. Often when you're looking at project examples online about the Arduino, you'll find something that does one thing you need, but it doesn't do everything. And then you'll find another example that does something else, but you need to combine these together. But how do we do that and then still make the sketch work? So I'm going to show you how to do this in a basic way. There's 4 steps to do. Copy everything from above setup, then copy everything in setup, then copy everything in the loop, and then copy everything after the loop. After you do that, then you need to look for duplicate variable names and duplicate pin names and change everything accordingly. And then your sketches should work. So let's go ahead and use the blink without delay. This is the basic Arduino example for how to use millisecond timers. We're going to copy that into the servo knob example from the Arduino library. This knob example over on the right already has a millisecond timer. In its original form, it uses delay, but in the previous video, I changed it with a millisecond timer so it doesn't use delay. So let's go ahead and use those rules. We're going to go ahead and copy everything from above setup. So if I look over here, I can just copy all of this, and I can copy the comments too. So I'll highlight that and press Control-C or Command-C. Then I'm going to come over here and think about where I want to put everything. If I put it in the middle here, that could get confusing. So what I like to do is go below or above your choice, and then I'll put in a comment. So I say begin blink without delay paste code, then I'll press return, and then press Control or Command-V to paste it. And then I'll go down to the bottom of that, and I'll mark a comment of where it ends. So this way I have a marker to know where that code came from. So that's one of the steps. The next step is to go ahead and get everything in setup. So I'm going to copy everything in setup right here, press Control-C or Command-C. And then once again, I'm going to go to the new sketch, and then I'll put a comment, begin paste. And then after that, I'll go ahead and paste it. And then I can put a comment. Eventually you can remove these comments, but it's really helpful for when you're first debugging a sketch. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and go to the loop, and we'll go ahead and copy everything within the loop. Now, one mistake that often happens is when you're copying from the loop, you might get this ending bracket. You see how right here on line 71, I have the ending bracket. Make sure you don't get that. If you do copy it, just make sure you delete it. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and copy everything right here and press Command-C or Control-C. Then I'm going to come over to the loop. And then the next trick is to make sure you're within that closing bracket. And remember, in the Arduino IDE, you can always click on the bracket, and then you see how it's highlighted so I know which one it is. So I want to go on line 56. I'll press return. Then I'll put a comment, begin paste, put a couple carriage returns, then Control-V or Command-V to paste. And then I want to press return, and then I'll put another comment here. So now I have everything pasted from the previous program. Now, if there were some extra functions below loop, then I would copy them over here below loop. But these are simple programs and they don't have extra functions. So now what I'm going to do is just move this one all the way over so I can see it full screen. And then I'll go ahead and just make the text a little bit bigger. There, that should be easier to see on the screen. So what we do is we start at the top and we see if there's any duplicate variables. In this case, there's not, because in the previous sketch, I made sure that previous milliseconds had this ending, the suffix that made it different. So this also uses previous milliseconds, and we can leave that alone, or you could make it previous milliseconds LED or something else if you wanted to make it more usable with other programs, because this one gets repeated a lot. Same with interval. Here we have our LED interval that's different than our knob interval, so we're okay there. Then in the setup, we need to check for any duplicate pins. Here, the servo is using pin 9, and then the pot pin is using A0. So what pin is the blink without delay using? It's using the LED built-in. This is also often pin 13. So usually that's just pin 13 or the built-in LED on the Arduino. So that's not a collision, so we're okay there. So we can leave the setup alone. Now, in the loop, we might want to change some things because here, this is our servo knob without delay, But then under the begin paste, you see they've declared in the example sketch from Arduino unsigned long current millis. Well, we've already made a current millisecond variable, so we don't need to call the millisecond function again. It would work exactly as is because we're using different variable names, but we can make this a bit more efficient. So what we'll do is we'll delete this line. And then if we delete that, we need to change these other current millis variables to our current milliseconds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this and press Command C or Control C to copy. Then I'm going to come down here and I'm just going to replace these variables. I could do a find and replace, or I could just do this manually like that. So now we have only one call to the millisecond function, and it's reusing this current milliseconds timer. So now we have two working sketches that are now combined into one. And then we can always click the check mark to see if it compiles. It compiles the sketch, as we can see in the output. Everything is okay. So now we have two sketches that work together. Of course, now you need to test it on the hardware to make sure there's no interferences there. But this is how you can combine two Arduino sketches into one single program.